Hello YouTube, John Too Tall for Baseball again. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about grips and how that relates to the double stroke roll. Also going to talk to you about making the transition from single strokes to double strokes and back to single strokes. I'm going to show you basically just my hands today so you can get a close-up look at what each hand does. I'm going to start with my left hand first. Now I'm going to show you how I use my left hand. Here's the grip with my left hand. I'm going to take the stick and I'm going to put it 3.5 inches between the end and to where my hand is. Okay? Now it's going to rest on this ring finger here, and generally I put my index finger around the stick, but for purposes of double stroke roll, I'm not going to do a lot with it except keep it from flopping out of control. Okay? So with the bounces on the left hand, I'm going to work with the drum and work with the rebound. Okay? Now at this point, I'm not thinking about what these fingers are doing at all. Some guys maybe playing drumline might have this finger down or this finger in a certain position, and that's fine for them. However, for me, I'm not playing in a marching drumline, so I don't have to worry about that. I just want to keep it relaxed. If I bring it back here, that's automatic tension right there. I don't want to play with tension. I want to play with the easiest way I can play and still get a good sound. Okay? So I'm bouncing here, bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Now again, for the purposes of doing this, I'm not going to use these two fingers much, okay? Just to show you that I'm following through the drum. Okay? I'm working to even the bounces. That's my goal, to make the bounces even. Now, notice I'm not doing the secondary bounce. I don't have to do that to get the bounces even. Okay? So, I'm stroking the drum. I'm not poking the drum. I'm stroking the drum. Here's what beginners do. Poking, poking. First note is louder than the second. It's not even. So instead of trying to accent the second note, I mean that's not even either. Okay? So what I want to do instead of doing that, I want to follow through. When I'm following through, what I really do is go a little bit farther to make than what I would have to go to make contact with the drum. Okay? If it makes sense to you, think of maybe a hot potato, where I'm going to hit it and act like it's a hot potato. I'm going to follow through the drum. Act as if you're playing 3 inches below the drum. Now, I'm bouncing here. Regardless of what it may look like, the stick is bouncing. Okay? Whoops. Bouncing the stick. That is a bounce. Now this is not really easy to do, okay? Because it's so slow. But it is in fact a bounce. I'm not doing anything with my hands to help it, because later on I'm not going to have time to do that. So it's important to learn how to bounce slowly. Slow bounce, slow bounce. Now all this is done right here. All this is done right here. But I am bouncing the stick. It's a bounce. Now I'm going to single stroke it. 2 strokes. Single stroke. Single stroke. Single stroke. All of these are single strokes. Single. Single all the time. Okay? Now, double strokes. Bounce. 1 stroke, 2 notes. Okay? 1 stroke, 2 notes. How am I getting it even? Because I'm following through. I'm kind of driving the stick down. I'm chasing the stick. I'm chasing the bounce a little bit. Just a little bit, tiny bit. Okay? Now that will come in handy when you want to try to play paradiddles or double paradiddles or sticking patterns or anything, so that you can, as long as you can play a double stroke slowly, you can play other rudiments much easier, and you don't have to keep battling with this secondary accent stuff, because you get in sticking patterns, you got to practice the secondary accent with that, and then paradiddles, you're going to practice the secondary accent with that. Gee, that's a lot of that's too much work for me. All right, it should be easy to play. Okay, easy to play. I'm going to use the least amount of energy as I can, and I want to use the least amount of motion as I can. I play so loose that if you just touch the stick, pretty much it's going to fall out of my hand. That's good. Okay, again, this is bounce. I'm bouncing. I'm not doing two strokes. I'm following through. It may look as though I'm doing something else, but I'm really not. I'm following through. I'll demonstrate without my fingers at all. Okay? Now I add the other hand, and we're going to play bouncing rolls, double stroke rolls, slowly. Both hands bouncing. Sorry for the rim shot. Bounce, 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 bounce. Whoops, that's a good thing. If that happens to you, that's not a bad thing at all. That's a very good thing. All right, here we go. I'm bouncing, both sticks are bouncing. Bouncing, 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 bouncing. Now, when I want to go a little faster, now I'm going to put that index finger over the left hand. And that's just basically to try to keep it from flopping around. The faster you go, the smaller the distance your fingers are going to be. They're not going to be held out like this. They're going to be held closer. And same with the right hand. But eventually they're going to come like to this position. Okay? So, here we are. Now, if I want to tap the notes, if I want to help the double by using finger, I can do that. I'm not saying to not do that. I'm just saying to get a double stroke roll going for beginners, it's much easier just to make it eliminate all the extra motion, eliminate all the extra finger things you do, and do it all with just a follow through and your basic wrist grip. Your grip here, and then your right hand just here. I'm going to keep my fingers on the stick with my right hand. I'll show you the right hand in a second. So here we go. So we're going faster. Now my index finger is going to come over the stick. Now if I want to help it, if I want to stroke it along, I'm stroking along with my right hand. Right now, I'm actually stroking along, and I'm stroking now. I'm doing this with my left hand, with my finger, index finger, okay? Starting here and coming in. But don't worry about that for beginners. Okay, here I'm bouncing again. I'm bouncing the stick with both hands. Both hands are bouncing. Very important to be able to play slowly and bounce and make it clean. You do not need that secondary accent exercise, which is difficult to do. Everything is very loose. I'm playing as loose as I can play without dropping the stick. Okay? Very loose. Now, when I add accents to it, I am going to have to use a little bit of grabbing the stick, okay? Okay? I do have to do a little bit of that when I add the accents to it, but I don't do that with the double stroke roll. Okay? All right, now I'm going to show you how the right hand works. Now, first and foremost, you have to understand when you're playing something very slowly, you're going to be playing very relaxed, okay? Now, if some of these things it may look like I'm using my fingers when actually I'm not. Here's one thing to keep in mind. If you've got your hand very relaxed and you drop your hand and you're not doing anything with your fingers, and then when you pick your hand up, your fingers will naturally follow the hand. So it's come from here to here. This is a natural. I'm not doing anything with my fingers at all when I lift my hand. So if you were to act like you had a piece of string tied to that knuckle and you lifted your hand, your fingers will naturally come up. I'm not doing anything, I'm not pumping, but they naturally will come up. So I'm going to bounce here and show you that I'm bouncing very slowly, but I'm using a follow through. Okay, here's my grip before we go any further. This is 1.5 inches between the end and where my pinky is. Alright, now my grip, I have more of a drum set player's grip now than I used to. Used to be, I would play more like this, okay, with the finger wrapped around. Now I play more with the finger kind of on the side, and a lot of players play that way. Benny Colaiuta plays that way, Steve Gadd plays that way, Buddy Rich used to play that way. A lot of set players play this way, and there's a reason for that, and I'll get to that in a second. However, for right now, I'm playing very loose. I take the stick, I'm not playing any firmer than that. I mean, it's just loose. It's just barely there. If I were to touch it, it drops. All right, I'll hit the stick and I'll drop it. Okay, that's how loose you need to play. So here we go. Double stroke, bounce. Now, one more thing. I'm going to play with an open space between my thumb and index finger. That's for relaxation. Okay. Now this is very slow and awkward and hard to do, but it is in fact a bounce, 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 as opposed to single stroke. Single stroke. Stroke every time. Watch the wrist. Stroke every time. Every time I hit it, one stroke. Stroke, stroke, stroke. Now, as opposed to bounce. Hit it once and let it bounce. Now, watch my fingers. Again, I'm coming to this position, and I lift up. Fingers go with it. I'm not doing anything with that. I'm just letting it go. The idea is to keep your fingers on the stick. Don't play like this. Don't play like that. Don't play like that. Okay? Just keep your fingers on your stick. Okay? This is a bounce. I'm bouncing the stick. Bounce. Slow, but it's still a bounce. Bounce, 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 bounce. Now, I want you to think of following through the drum as if the drum head is right down here, 3 inches below. That means you have to kind of break your wrist a little bit more, or bend it, break it, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but that's what's going to happen. Stroking the drum. Beginners do this. This is poking. After you play a while, stroke it. Follow through. Well, again, my fingers, the stick is bouncing. Regardless of what my fingers may appear to be doing, I'm bouncing the stick. Look at the wrist. One stroke, as opposed to 2 strokes. Single stroke. Double stroke. 1 stroke. The bounce. Now, the faster you get, the more your hand will kind of close up a little bit. And when you hit the drum, notice too, when you hit the drum, the stick is going to come back. it's going to push against your fingers. The only thing I'm doing is just holding on to the stick. It's going to push against my fingers and they're naturally going to come back. Okay? It's going to push against my fingers, push, and then naturally come back. Push and naturally come back. I'm not doing anything with this. I'm doing one motion, only one motion. Follow through, follow through. Hot potato, if it makes more sense to think about that, think about it as a hot potato. Like you're going to, tip of the stick means you're going to burn your hand. Hot potato. Follow through, hot potato. Follow through, hot potato. Pick it up. Pick it up. Work with the rebound. Working with the rebound. But these are bounce strokes. I'm not helping the stick with my fingers at all. Everything is coming from the wrist. Everything comes from the wrist. Everything comes from the wrist. Bounce stroke, single stroke. Single stroke. Now I'm going to practice the single stroke, going into double stroke, and then coming back to single stroke. Single stroke. Single. Double. 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 Single. 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 Double. Single. I'm sorry, double. Single. Single. Double. It's double, both. I'm bouncing both sticks. Double, 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 single. Last times, single, double. Okay, now I'm going to play, and you can see what my hands are doing from the front. Single stroke. Single. Double. Bouncing the stick. I'm not doing anything with my fingers. Playing through the drum. Through the drum. Double. Double, slower, harder to do, single, 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 double. Now, again, with my right hand, following through the drum. Again, my hand, if I were to relax my hand and pick my hand up, the fingers are going to naturally follow. Okay? It doesn't mean I'm doing anything, just it's a natural occurrence. So, but this, again, is a bounce stroke. I'm bouncing, 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 bouncing. Slow bounce, but it's still a bounce. Bounce, single. Now, if I want to actually help it with my fingers, I can do that. Okay, now I am pumping. Pumping. Pumping with both fingers. I'm sorry, pumping with both hands. It's a balance, but I'm pumping, I'm helping it. I don't want to do that. Okay? I can, but I don't really want to because later on I'm not going to use that anyway. So here we go. Bouncing. Follow through. Bounce. Bounce. Bouncing still. Bouncing. Very hard to do right here. And at that point I have no choice but go to single strokes because it's just too slow. Alright? Single. Double. Okay? I hope that's been helpful to you. I hope you understand that you don't have to do, when we're talking about a double stroke roll, you don't have to do this secondary accent stuff. You don't have to do that in order to develop a smooth double stroke. It's all about follow through, hot potato, follow through, follow through, follow through, follow through. Follow through. I'm picking up my hand. I'm not doing this, picking it up. My fingers is just going to stay on the stick. Okay? Tune in for next lesson. I'm going to do paradiddles the easy way. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks for watching.